Hi, my name is Beckie Taylor, and I'm co-founder and CEO at Tech Returners, and also co-founder of Women in Tech North. So these are my top tips for returning. But I just want to give a little bit of context first. So many people have career breaks for so many different reasons, and it isn't just women that have those breaks. We did a piece of research at Tech Returners and really to understand the most common reasons for people to have career breaks. And probably no surprise, the top one being childcare related, then followed by moving country in terms of followed by career switching, education, and health reasons. And there's a lot of misconceptions around having a career break. People often think just because you've got a gap in your CV, you've lost in terms of all that wealth of experience and skills that you've had prior to your career break. People have the misconception that if you're returning after a career break, you only want part-time, that you won't want to progress. People believe that you haven't actually gained any further skills in terms of while you've been on your career break, which, couldn't be further from the truth. At Tech Returners, we really do champion the value of returners and what they can bring to an organization. And just to give you some examples around the value, I talk a lot around the transferable skills. So being a parent myself and having two career breaks as I've had two children, I talk a lot about the skills that I've acquired and what I carry out on a normal morning in terms of mediation, negotiation, and time management just to get my two children out in time for school. I think also to look at the value of, the experience and skill set a returner has had. So like I said previously, people have had breaks, have got a wealth of experience prior to their career break. And this is only enhanced from the break that they've had, gaining those transferable skills, but potentially also upskilling themselves while they're on a career break. We find a lot of our tech returners take on additional certification, they do projects for friends and family, all gaining more and more experience for them to help transition back into their career, going back into the tech industry. And also in terms of people are looking for a variety of roles when they go back. It's, they might want the flexibility, but that doesn't needless to say that they're not as committed or as motivated. What we tend to find is the actual opposite, that people have had the career break, are very grateful for organizations to give them back opportunities. So they tend to be more motivated, more passionate about their career going forward. So at Tech Returners, we've supported hundreds and hundreds of tech returners back into the industry. And we really value and champion the value a returner can bring to an organization. However, getting back to the top tips, things that I would recommend if you're looking to transition back after a career break. I think that you really need to really reflect and understand the wealth of experience and skills and transferable skills that you can bring to an organization. So that can be in terms of mapping things out, in terms of looking around what skills and experiences you've had prior to your career break, how you've enhanced that. So think about the things I've talked about, transferable skills that you've gained, what maybe volunteering projects you've done, what in terms of projects you might have done to keep your skills up to date, what sorts of conferences, meetups, events that you've been to, because these really need to be projected in terms of when you go back into interview situations and looking for that next role. A lot of people, that we come across are very reluctant to put any information around their career break and almost leave it as almost like a line on your CV where there's no detail. And what we encourage returners and employers to do is actually look into the gap, look into the value of your gap, because you won't have sat there and done nothing for that amount of time. There'll be a whole wealth of experience and skills that you have gained that are of value to your next organization and your next role. So however you feel fit, whether that's mapping it out, doing it in terms of audio, you need to sort of concisely articulate in terms of the value of your skills and experience before your break, what you've enhanced them, and how that is applicable to the role and organization that you're going to apply to or want to work in going forward. I think in terms of also my second tip would be to find a community. You know, when we set up Tech Returners a number of years ago, there wasn't that much talk around returners, and the communities, you know, were very limited, if not in existence until we came around. But as obviously this has progressed and more organizations are, you know, doing returner programs, working with companies like ourselves, there is now more and more communities around returners. So you could find a community in terms of searching from LinkedIn, meetup.com, Eventbrite, doing a Google search, or even just reaching out to people to connect with if they're in a similar situation or have been in a similar situation to us. Our community, like I said, is hundreds of people strong. And we find that our community, you know, people that have gone through that sort of process of returning now pay it forward and support other people returning. So I think community is really, really key in terms of people that have gone through your situation, but also building your community out in terms of the industry roles that you want to go in going forward. Time is precious and there's an awful lot of events going on. So try and research in terms of what you feel will be supportive to your next transition and your next move. You know, ask the organizers of those meetups, those events around what topics they cover, you know, who usually attends, to really get a feel in terms of what it's actually like within that community, because then you'll know whether it's relevant to you. But a community is a massive thing. And community could just not also in person. There's a lot of online communities as well, in terms of your LinkedIn groups, and you know, a lot of supportive communities do communicate and collaborate online. So please do obviously search for those as well. Linking around community, my third one is about reaching out for support. You know, I get asked a lot, you know, from messages around people asking for my support because I've been in that situation. I have felt in terms of the situation returning, how I felt in terms of my lack of confidence, how I felt in terms of transitioning back after, even though it was a short period of time, I understand in terms of how it affects you and what you feel like. So don't be afraid to reach out to people that, you know, are in the similar situation. They can share tips and advice. You can share tips and advice together, you know, and really support each other. Likewise, like I said, people that have been through it can really help and share their experiences and maybe tools and techniques that have helped them that really can then help you going forward as well. I think when you get to understanding what you want to do going forward and remembering it's a two-way process. So the role and the career going forward has to be right for you. So when you're mapping out in terms of what's important, make sure you're true in terms of what you're expecting from that process. And remember, it is a two-way process. What you don't want to do is go and transition into an organization that might not value your values and what you're looking for. So the match has really got to be important from that, and really connecting what you want from that next transition into your career. And making sure, like I said, when you get to that interview process, it's two-way. So make sure you've got those questions ready in terms of what you're wanting to ask. You know, one thing that we have a lot of returners talk about is that flexibility. I think we have moved on significantly, you know, from the back of the pandemic. I think employers are a lot more open to that flexibility and that the agile way of working. But if that's something really important to you, that's something that you shouldn't be compromising. You know, I couldn't work without having that flexibility to be able to pick my children up, go to sporting events, because that's intrinsic to who I am. That's really, really key. So I know if I was ever in that situation, that those are sort of the questions that I would be asking as well. And don't be afraid to ask, because you won't be the first and you won't be the last. And it's really important for you to understand this before making that commitment. And then my fifth and final point is a massive topic in itself. It's all around building your confidence. And there is so many ways in which, confidence is affected through career breaks. I've felt it myself from having, a longer break with my son to a shorter break with my daughter, and people feel that impact that having a break has had on you. So the things and quick tips that I would suggest, think around building yourself like a confidence log, in terms of the things that, you've achieved, the things where you maybe have reached out to people, the things that you maybe have applied and got that feedback. They can all be part of your confidence log, and keeping a note and keeping like a diary, a journal around those things, because those are big steps. As you start your transition back, making, steps like that are very significant, and they can all help you build that confidence. And you might then go for a job interview and be unsuccessful, but make sure you ask for that feedback. That feedback can help build your confidence, because rather than wondering in terms of why you didn't get that, it's giving you an opportunity to work on things that you can do for next time as well. Also reach out to, past colleagues, your network for, bits of feedback, recommendation tab in terms of LinkedIn. These things help in terms of your confidence as well. And, that term imposter syndrome, reframe it. The reason why I believe we feel imposter syndrome is because we push ourselves from our comfort zone into our growth zone. So every time that we're looking to develop, because we've not experienced it before, we do feel like the imposter. So reframe it, because the reason why you're maybe feeling it at the time is because you're looking to progress into a career that you're probably very passionate about and really wanting to get back into. I hope those tips have been helpful. You can follow me on LinkedIn, Beckie Taylor. And please do, if you are in the tech sector and looking to return, please do reach out to techreturners.com. Thank you.